Welcome to this very special edition of Flick by Flick, starring me, Oliver Luddy.
And me, Joe Kelly.
And this week or year or day, depending on how often we release these things, we are going to be discussing a very special event, which you may or may not give much credence to, called the Academy Awards.
Yes, so basically we're planning in the next current, as Oliver said, oncoming weeks or months to release a few podcasts, a few commentaries, just general film and video game style stuff.
Any entertainment, any pop culture that seems to rub people the right way or the wrong way.
Yeah. So basically we just thought it would be a good opportunity to practice out whilst talking about the Academy Awards.
It is going to be quite a practicing session. If this feels muddled, it's probably because it is. And luckily Joe here has a structure in front of him.
I have a meticulous structure that took...
He feared the worst.
It took very few days to make.
So he knew the tornado of unbridled energy that we are as a conversational pair. So he narrowed it down to a few topics. So what are we doing first today?
And boy, they're fun. Well, I thought I'd start with a little pop quiz on the Academy Awards, which I know you're super excited about. Everyone can play along at home.
well, can you describe my reaction when you first described it?
Oh, Joe, I don't think that's a very good idea.
I think I was in the middle of like a 12-hour shift and you said to me, what if I ask you some questions about the Academy Awards this year?
Which I thought was such a fun and lovely idea that would really kind of cement our love of film and allow us to sort of discuss and share knowledge, and it was met with pure hatred.
In my hunger and my madness, I think I was less enthusiastic, but depends on the questions you want to ask.
Well, I think they're quite good questions. There's only 7 of them.
There's
only 7 of them. So, the first question, Oliver, about the Academy Awards is: at the 2017 Academy Awards, La La Land was hilariously announced as the winner of Best Picture. The core cast and crew got on stage only to find out that the actual winner was Moonlight. How did this happen, or why did this happen?
Wasn't it a flub with the envelope for Best Actress was opened instead, or it was a duplicate? No, sorry. The envelope was correct. The card inside was wrong, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was the card for Best Actress, wasn't it?
Yes. So it said Emma Stone, La La Land.
That was it. And good old Warren Beatty, who we know is in completely stable mental health in his late 110s.
To be fair, it wasn't his fault.
No. I just think it was
Faye Dunaway's fault, and he got blamed for it because they were up there, and bless it, he opened the award, and she
did
was
he
like,
hand it to her?
Yeah. So she said that the Academy Award goes to, and then he was there, and he was just like looking really confused, and then she was like, "I'll give it here, La La Land," and then he got blamed.
No, I love those guys, but it's quite humorous having them up in conjunction with such a number. But I'm impressed I got that one. I can't remember most of my personal life back to 2017, let alone.
I just want to give a shout out as well. There's a sketch by, I think they're called Muriel Comedy. One of them's, I think a couple of them are friends with my brothers, and they do a sketch where it's like Emma Stone, except doing an interview with the Oscar.
You mentioned this
and she's saying that she won Best Picture as well as Best Actress. It's so funny. It's like, it's a real honour to be getting Best Picture. Anyway, that's really good. Look that up. The second question, see, it's pretty painless so far. Name 3 films that have won Best Picture in the last decade.
Shit. And it can be any year.
Any year, Not in the last decade.
Shall I exclude 2017 because you said Moonlight?
Yes. I'd be incredibly disappointed if you said Moonlight.
Spotlight. So are we going back to 2009?
Yes.
Goodness. Did the King's Speech win it?
Yes. King's Speech.
And
what won last year?
Blimey. I thought that was... No, it wasn't Spotlight, was it?
No.
Last year it was... it was a good lineup last year. What was it? No, I thought it was Moonlight last year.
No, Moonlight was the year before.
Shape of Water.
Yay!
That was one I
Fair play.
really loved. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I know not everyone loves Shape of Water. I think that's one of the best winners in ages.
One of my favourite winners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great to see a genre film win as well. So, yeah, Shape of Water, Moonlight, Spotlight, Birdman won.
Oh, how did I miss that?
The unexpected,
Flub. That was my flub.
The love of your life, Michael
I got handed
Keaton.
the envelope. And I said, sorry, Birdman. Sorry, Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
I won't disrespect you again.
Other ones you could have had are 12 Years a Slave.
Oh yeah.
Argo.
Argo, I quite enjoyed.
Everyone watches on a day-to-day basis. That means they don't. No, I liked Argo as well.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know.
Argo is one of my edge of my seat films because I didn't know what the ending
was. One
would
of your
be.
Edge of 17 films.
My
I'm going to say that.
17 films. Films I love as much as Edge of 17. Okay, question 3.
Okay.
You're doing pretty good so far. You got 2 out of 2.
2 for 2, yeah.
As of yet, what is the only Academy Award-winning film in the DC Cinematic Universe? Don't look at the answers.
I'm going to say Wonder Woman probably got a award for... Oh dear. I'm not liking that look.
Well, what did it win for?
I'm going to say either visual effects or sound design.
No. So the only film in the DC universe to win an Academy Award is Suicide Squad.
Oh yes, didn't that get costume design?
It won
or production design.
No, it was best achievement in makeup and hairstyling.
Oh, so
And
along those lines.
everyone
Not
was
to
very
generalise
upset.
the beauty and fashion industry.
Yeah.
If you can call Will Smith's Deadshot makeup beautiful.
Did you see that all the way through?
No. I've seen flashes of it that have been enough to put me off.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll rectify that in due course.
Well, it's
I
an
can't
Academy Award-winning film, so it's
exactly. People
essential
can say
viewing.
that it's now up
Essential viewing.
with Batman, The Dark Knight, Superman. I think Superman got some Academy Awards.
Yeah.
I'm sure one of the Spider-Man films has, but
More Academy Awards than Logan.
it's up there. Oh.
No.
That's the noise of my heart twitching in agony.
Okay, question 4. Owen Wilson has received 1 Academy Award nomination. What was this nomination for?
That I probably can't answer, to be honest.
This one is quite hard. I just thought it was
You just wanted to
any excuse to go,
embarrass me.
wow.
So these questions are actually
Honestly,
just.
Oliver, you don't know. You don't know what I won my Academy Award for.
I really want to accept this award. It's quite an honour. So you just want to assert authority with these questions more than anything.
Well, obviously, Oliver.
I'm going to say you got a supporting actor for a film.
No, this is interesting. He come on, I co-wrote the screenplay for the Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, okay.
He co-wrote the screenplay for the
Translated to English from Wilson-esque.
Yeah. But no, I was interested when I heard that. That's been my favourite pop quiz question.
For some time.
Which I've written.
You ask it in
for every
numerous
quiz
situations.
I do.
Yeah.
Against the will of my family. 5. Okay, I'm putting you in a tight spot here.
Oh boy.
And it's a big reflection on you as a person and on you as a modern man. How much you get. How many women have been nominated for Best Director at the Academy Awards?
I'm going to say a pathetic number. I'm going to say 3.
It's a little more than 3. It's 5.
5.
Still not enough.
No.
Definitely. You can pick out individual cases where it just totally should have been done. But in reverse order, so it's Greta Gerwig obviously got nominated last year for Lady Bird. Catherine Bigelow in 2009 is the only winner with The Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
Sofia Coppola got nominated for Lost in Translation. Jane Campion for The Piano. And the one I didn't know that not a famous director, I think certainly not like a household name, is Lena Wertmuller for a film called Seven Beauties, and that was in the late 1970s.
First.
But I think particularly, to be fair, I think there's always been a problem with not enough sort of female directors getting like big projects.
It's almost like a funnel, isn't it? You go from all of the directors, you funnel it down to female directors, and then you funnel it down to female directors who are nominated for.
Exactly. So whilst it's not
unfortunately
whilst that's not entirely like just an awful reflection of the Academy Awards, I think in recent years it definitely is. I think there's been a growing number.
Exactly. And it hasn't been proportionate.
I think that the ones that really stand out to me are Lynn Ramsey for We Need to Talk About Kevin. I think that's just such an incredibly well directed film, and I'm gonna add in a word for my favourite film of 2017, Julie DeCurno for Raw.
Oh right, yeah. Of course.
I think
I'm surprised that wasn't nominated.
Oh well, you know, it's a bit too French and a bit too interesting and just a bit too brilliant. It's just so good.
We'd rather The Post, apparently.
Oh yeah. Well, you know,
I mean, Steven Spielberg.
We need to be reminded sometimes that journalism's important.
That's true.
Actually, no, that's me, because Spotlight kind of had that, but I thought Spotlight
I was going to make a
better.
Spotlight-related comment, but it's worthless.
Yeah.
Let's leave The Post to rest.
Okay, this one, I don't know if you'll get this one. In 1973, Sacheen Littlefeather, I think that's how you pronounce her first name, appeared on behalf of which actor?
Marlon Brando.
Yes.
It's really fun.
Yeah, so have you seen that video?
Oh yeah. Numerous times. It's really funny.
Yeah. So yeah, Sacheen Littlefeather declined on behalf of Marlon Brando for, she said, the treatment of American Indians by the film industry and on television, and also something called the Wounded Knee Incident, which was a 71-day siege in which hundreds of American Indians were arrested and 2 were shot dead. But I don't know, I think she, even though it's like there's something bizarre about the whole situation, she actually like sort of speaks
it's
very well.
Like, I think it's just the bizarreness of it that stands out to me.
And it's quite weird also when like she starts saying it, and it's a perfectly kind of, I imagine, reasonable thing to say. I mean, there's a mixture between like applause and people booing, and it's just like, who are these guys?
Well, I mean, they're in that safe space, aren't they?
To
do whatever they want, applaud or boo, whatever they want.
Yeah. So that's where we standing. We're 3 out of 6.
How many times? Maybe this is your final question. How many times people have declined it? Because George C. Scott declined it. Didn't he?
For Patton.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was starting to become a thing in the early 70s.
Yeah. When they realised they had a choice.
Yeah. And I don't know how many people have declined. I can't think of anyone who's declined recently.
No,
definitely not.
In fact, even George C. Scott, did he actually? That was before the ceremony even took place, wasn't it? Like,
yes.
He'd been nominated, and it wasn't like he declined it during the ceremony in any way. It was just
I don't think there was anything
refusal.
sort of dramatic like that.
Yeah.
He just wasn't there when someone picked up on his behalf. That's as far as I know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure really. But yeah, I haven't heard of any other accounts. That's something I'd have to look up.
It's not quiz material.
Oh, question 7 is a question catered to you. Okay.
Let everyone know who we are as a pair.
Oliver likes kids' films.
Oh boy.
No, I'm joking. He likes animated films. And
it's called animation.
They're not the same.
It involves artistry.
They're not the same. Okay.
It's very little crossover.
So, which of the following films did not win Best Animated Film at the Academy Awards? So there are 5 films in total. I'm not going to tell you how many won and how many didn't.
Oh, right. So I've got to say which
I'm going to say
won
5 animated films, and you've got to say which ones won and which ones didn't. So, Monsters, Inc., Shrek 2, Ratatouille, Rango, and Moana.
Ratatouille, I'm pretty sure won.
Correct.
Monsters, Inc., I believe, was the same year as Shrek, which won it.
Correct. Monsters, Inc. was beaten by Shrek, yes.
What were the other ones? Shrek 2, Moana...
And Rango.
What year was Rango? 2009, wasn't it?
I think it was... The year was 2011, so it would have been the 2012 ceremony.
I'm going to say that Shrek 2 won it.
No, Shrek 2 did not win.
Oh, Spirited Away won that year, didn't
No,
it?
no, no, no. So Shrek 2 was 2004 and was beaten by The Incredibles. Spirited Away, I'm pretty sure, was 2001 and did win.
Wait, no. You mean 2000? It was 2001
Oh, maybe
with
2002. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Shrek. A bit of back and forth there. We're both right in our own
We've
ways.
got to fact check. We help each other out. Sweet, really.
I'm gonna say Moana. I don't think it won, did it?
No.
And then Rango, I think did win.
Rango did win.
Yeah.
Have you seen Rango?
No, not all the way through. Only bits and pieces. I kind of want to see it.
Yeah.
It's ILM's. I think it's their only animated film.
Yeah, because Gore Verbinski directed it.
Yeah.
You're right about Moana. Moana was beaten by Zootopia or Zootropolis, depending on where you're at in the world.
We go by.
Which one do we go?
Zootopia.
We're Zootopia.
They made it as Zootopia. So
Okay.
We don't bend by any sort of
Those damn.
promotional,
Where's it called Zootropolis?
Here.
Oh, right. So okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm sure plenty of other European countries.
Very, very good. So yeah, you did. Should I give you a half point for that?
Well, was it 4/5 of a point?
Yeah, three. You got 3 4/5 out of 7, which is pretty good.
Almost there.
Congratulations.
I'm pretty sure I got more than 3, didn't I?
You got 3 4/5.
Oh well.
Sorry. Better
Okay,
luck
so
next
now
time.
we've established my film knowledge. Is
Yeah, and
poor.
hopefully we've all learned a little something.
Yeah.
Right, that leads us on nicely. Smooth segue to the 91st Academy Awards, which are coming up very soon. They'll be held at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles and will be hosted by no one.
Yeah, absolutely no one.
As of
now
yet,
that Kevin
no
Hart
one's
has
hosting.
decided that was more or less his decision and more theirs, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't know what
So
happened
they
there,
the people was the reaction, wasn't it? It kind of caused enough of a shitstorm for. Did he withdraw or they?
I think in the end, I don't know actually. I don't know. I probably should have looked this up. I always picture the Academy Awards though of like the men in like the trailers for The Purge. You know, have you seen the Purge election year? It was like, we need to get rid of that senator. I always picture them like that, just like evil.
We don't have any racists. We don't get hosts who are black. So
no one is gonna spoil in Green Book getting everything.
We are going to celebrate diversity, whether Kevin Hart is involved or not.
But yeah, no one's set down to host in the minute. That would be interesting. Maybe the show will be even longer, which is what it sorely needs.
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
We need more of a circle jerk. I mean, does it really make much of a difference if there's no
I never
host?
actually watched the ceremony. It's weird that we're doing a
preemptive
No, but
review.
it's so boring. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, look it up on Wikipedia afterwards. Look
But
up
you
the
get
good
different
speeches.
Celebrities presenting each of the awards anyway.
Yeah. It's
So
just someone to
I
keep it
don't
all
know,
together and do a bit at the beginning.
do bad
but-
comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got no host, a setting that I very much enjoy, the Dolby Theatre. It's one that I frequent a lot.
People need to know that.
Yeah, definitely. And
That was just to make me sound more professional.
and a set of films that is sure to draw quite an audience. I mean, everyone has loved all of the nominations this year. I'm sure.
Oh, that leads us on nicely.
Oh.
Shall I go through just some of the films? So The Favourite and Roma are leading the pack, as they say, with 10 nominations each.
Good.
We have A Star Is Born and Vice with 8 nominations. Black Panther with 7 nominations. Black Klansman with 6 nominations. Our favourite Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book with 5
Quite
nominations. First Man and Mary Poppins Returns have 4 nominations. And other notable films with multiple nominations include Cold War, which I'm still yet to see, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, If Beale Street Could Talk, which hasn't come out here yet,
No, not quite yet.
and Can You Ever Forgive Me, which I saw recently. So yeah, those are kind of the notable films. Should I just start by asking, what's your general impression of the list of films that have been celebrated this year, and maybe just 2018 as a year in general?
Confusion, just in general, over the year, not just in my personal life, in terms of film as well.
No.
I mean, going personally, I don't think I've seen a huge number of films that have affected me this year. Not like last year, where there was plenty to choose from, in any terms, you know, blockbusters or artier films. This year it's been much more of a struggle. I wouldn't even be able to form a top 10 without going into average territory. I'm sure you're different. I haven't actually watched. I managed to watch a grand total of 16 films in the cinema this year, which is pretty pathetic considering the past 2 years I've watched about 30.
Yeah.
But
that is pathetic.
I
haven't done much more than you. To be honest,
generally. Part of that is just, again, down to incentive. It's just, even in terms of the Best Picture nominations, a lot of these films I wouldn't have gone to see, and I kind of regret going to see.
Ooh, dear.
And in terms of the nominations in general, there are ones that, you know, like if Beale Street Could Talk, I haven't seen yet, but from the reception that it's gotten, I'm surprised it's not in Best Picture. And from what you said of Can You Ever Forgive Me, I'm kind of surprised about that as well.
Yeah. If Beale Street Could Talk is anything like Moonlight, and Barry Jenkins brings any of the same sort of passion he did to that, then it must be just leaps and bounds ahead of some of the ones that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
If I've probably watched a similar amount to you. I think I've liked a few more films than you have. I think there's a couple of ones
that happens generally, though, doesn't it? You're less picky.
Yeah,
you live life.
Well, personally, I like to see the best in films. I don't know.
You like to turn your brain off a little bit.
Switch your brain off.
Switch your brain off.
Should we talk about some snubs to start off with? Like, what would we like to see nominated for Best Picture and nominated for some of the other things?
Yeah. I mean, I can see right away you've got Widows on there.
I've got Widows for me is the most confusing.
Heard a lot of good stuff about it.
It's not to say it's my favourite film of the year, but it's one that I would have thought would have been completely like a sort of both a box ticking one and a great film. It's one of those films where you watch all the scenes, you look at all the performances, you look at the whole way it's constructed, and everything is just right about it, and you think when you're watching it, these people really know what they're doing. They know how to tell stories. The character detail, even in sort of the smaller side characters, is just really, really good stuff that keeps you engaged in the world, keeps you just makes you believe in everything that's happening. So I think that's a huge snub for Best Picture, considering some of the films that have been included.
I think we can just generally say that, like, at least half of the Best Picture nominations are average.
Yeah.
So if you can think of a great film this year that wasn't nominated for Best Picture,
then it deserves to be.
It's confusing that it wasn't nominated.
Yeah. Best Director, to be fair, is slightly more competitive. There's only one that I think really doesn't deserve to be there this year, which we'll probably get onto in a bit. But Steve McQueen is one of my favourite directors, and he brings such brilliance to Widows. Because it's a potentially sort of slightly pulpy, trashy story,
right?
But it's a well-written script, and he brings such sort of artistry to it. I think Elizabeth Debicki and Daniel Kaluuya also should both have supporting actor nods.
I have seen bits of this film, and especially bits with Daniel Kaluuya, and he seemed to be fantastic in it from what I've seen, and I imagine he lives up to that in the rest
very
of the film.
different to his usual stuff. What he's brought in the past, particularly to Get Out, is like he has a very, very natural sort of chilled out vibe, which is actually incredibly real, but there's something brimming against the surface of it. Whereas in Widows, he's playing
like
a character.
Flat out
he's wired,
villain,
he's dangerous, and he's psychotic, and he's just such a talent. He's great.
Did he get nominated for Black Panther instead? The memorable character. Was he the villain? No, he wasn't the villain.
No. That was.
But he did betray whatever his face was.
T'Challa,
the king of the Black Panther.
He's called T'Challa, isn't he?
Yeah. Was that? No. Yeah.
But yeah, other films that I think are really fantastic. I think the one film that I think we saw and both loved was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
It was just terrific. That is up for Best Animated Film, but because
it's not enough.
animated films just aren't as good. as...
Well, I mean, they're made for
live
children,
action.
so they don't really deserve a chance at best picture. But it certainly got me. It certainly accessed my emotions far more than a lot of the best picture nominations this year. And
what did you think of the sort of animation style of it as well?
I mean, it was incredible. I thought it was the best. I've said this to Joe numerous times, but I thought it was one of the best sort of mainstream Western animated films in terms of animation for ages. I'd certainly I really loved the animation in Fantasia 2000, and it kind of reminded me of that in terms of its energy level and the level of thought that's clearly gone into it, and just how unique it was. Because it seems like a very straightforward thing to translate comic book imagery into animation. It seems like something that's been done countless times before, and yet here it's done, and it seems new, and it seems fresh, and it seems completely unique. So, not to mention the story is fantastic. I mean, I went in with low expectations, or rather, like, again, I'd seen bits and pieces through screen checks at the cinema I work at, but I went in with pretty mild expectations and was blown away by how much I thought it was easily the best Spider-Man film they've made, and one of the best superhero films of the last few years.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'd really recommend it, even if you're someone who says I don't really like comic book films. I think they're all kind of similar, and it's just something that doesn't connect with me. Like, if you're more into sort of
definitely one of the ones
thing.
to check out.
Because I think it's a film that actually really explores why comic book films affect people in the way that they do, and why superheroes are such a, I don't know, like, powerful icons for people. It's really about the inspiration they provide, and it's just great.
And such a perpetual icon for people, because the whole film brings together all these different iterations of the character. And I know there's this constant debate in all of these fan circles where it's like, oh, this is the best version of this character, this is the best version of this character. So it's so interesting to see a superhero film that presents so many different versions at the same time and basically says this character can be whatever you want it to be.
Yes.
And it can access whichever bits of your personality that you want it to access and sort of reflect that.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a lot to that film, and it's clearly done with a lot of thought and sort of passion. So far more passion than, you know. We won't name names.
We're gonna end every film we like with that comment.
Far more than
but
this
yeah,
film.
that I really believe that film will stand the test of time. I think that moves me on quite. This is a film which came out in Britain in 2017, but it's another film that I think, because it's just so damn enjoyable, people have almost like not considered it as an option. But Paddington 2 is it's genuinely one of the best films, best made films.
You would put it up
with
best sequels, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the first one was like nice and pleasant, a bit better than I thought it would be. The second one is just a complete joy, and it has and it's so surprising, like the kind of the love and the craft it's made with, like really just, again, concise, good storytelling, lots of setup and payoff, a wonderful performance by Hugh Grant. If you haven't seen Paddington 2, really, you haven't seen Paddington 2.
I regretted it because I only heard the response after it had come and gone. Because I did see the first Paddington, and I was kind of disappointed because I was expecting something a bit more laid back, and it was clear in that one that they had sort of morphed it a little bit towards a modern sensibility, which I thought maybe a little bit unnecessary, or it certainly didn't benefit the film that much.
In that case, I don't know how much you'll like the second one. I think what I liked about the second one is that it felt like it had so much more confidence in itself and what it wanted to be.
But maybe that would benefit it. Maybe I'd watch it and think, okay, this clearly knows what it wants to be a bit more.
Yeah.
It's taking that leap. So yeah, I regret missing out on it because I missed out on it thinking I didn't like the first one, so I went to see this one. But clearly it's up there with T2, The Empire Strikes Back, Paddington 2.
I believe it is.
It is.
In terms of the extent to which it improves on the sequel, I really think it's up there. Shall I just race through some of the other ones I've got, and then maybe you talk about some of the ones
it's
you're
your
missing
script,
out?
baby. You can do it however you like.
Don't comment. Best director. I'm gonna pronounce her name wrong, which is really bad. But I recently watched Revenge, and I know Revenge is one that you think Oscars. No, it's just a revenge film.
Do we?
But Coralie Farget. Coralie Farget. Sorry.
You typed it up.
Revenge is her first feature, and it's just. I absolutely loved it.
That was another one I didn't get to see. I liked the look of it and didn't get around to seeing it.
I think people. The problem is, I think when it came out, there was a big discussion on the idea that it was sort of subverting the rape revenge genre, which I don't think it necessarily is. Like, even if you look back to films like I Spit on Your Grave and Baise-Moi, I mean, I know I Spit on Your Grave, I think people find very, very problematic, but Revenge doesn't really subvert those tropes as much as it could do.
Right. Yeah.
The thing that makes it great though is that it's just so brilliantly executed, and it loses all the kind of leery sort of exploitative side of it.
Yeah.
Although it is very, very gory and very, very.
It's exploitative in the opposite direction.
Yes, it's exploitative in the kind of, I don't know,
like a sort of grindhouse sort of.
Yeah. But it's made with such style, and I think if you view it in the same way you'd view a film like First Blood, the first Rambo film, which is just a very intense stripped-back action film.
Yeah.
It's just terrific, and it reminded me slightly of like Drive, the Nicholas Winding Refn film, of taking such a simple story, a simple structure, just a few kind of main characters, but the kind of the style and energy you bring to it is what elevates it. And I think if that's not a best director nod, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Well, did he write? Did she write? There you go. Oh my god! There it goes. I'm just hiding my Academy, name badge and all of that from sight. We'll just pretend that I'm not on the panel.
Yeah.
Did she write it as well?
You must be. Although you must be the youngest member, considering
that's the thing. Yeah.
Considering the average
I dye
age,
my hair.
Considering the average age of Academy Award voters is 103.
Well, it's like a friend of mine said. They are led by a black woman. So.
Oh, are they?
Apparently. So that
oh
clearly.
God, was it someone who used that as ammo? Like,
yep.
Well, I don't know.
We can invalidate all of the concerns about racism and sexism because they are led by one black woman, and clearly.
Of course, Green Book is nominated.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the most representative film of the decade. Anyway, yeah, did she write it as well, or?
I think she did actually.
Yeah. It wouldn't be surprising if it's a director.
Oh yeah, I'd have to fact check that. I don't wanna say either way, but Dan, did she direct it, and did she direct it good?
Right.
Yeah, can't wait for her next film. Lynn Ramsey as well for You Were Never Really Here. I didn't love the film. I kind of admired it more than I liked it, but I thought her direction was fantastic, and I think I've always been interested in sort of screen violence and how that's executed and the extent to which it's kind of the moral effect that I think it has on me and has on the audience. And I think You Were Never Really Here, it really shows like an ugly side of violence, and she does very, very interesting things with editing.
There's a real sort of nihilism to it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting film. Toni Collette, Best Actress, Hereditary, I think is one people are talking about a lot. She's stunning in it. And finally, I think Johnny Greenwood, Best Original Score for You Were Never Really Here.
You're a big Johnny Greenwood fan, aren't you?
Yeah, have you seen any films with his soundtrack?
Well, we watched Norwegian Wood, didn't we? And he done the score to that, didn't he? Yeah. But no, I haven't really seen a lot of his stuff. So heard rather.
He knocks it out of the park every time. Like I think Phantom Thread last year was his first nomination.
Oh right.
But There Will Be Blood and The Master are just incredible scores. I think him and Paul Thomas Anderson as like a double act is just gold.
Not since Tim Burton and Danny Elfman, or Golden Age Tim Burton and Danny Elfman, we'll say.
So. Enough by me. What was some of the? I know you said you didn't have many that you were that infused by, but are there any that you?
I think did Annihilation get nominated for anything?
I don't think it.
Don't think it did. I think at the very least I would have nominated it for visual effects, if not I don't know if I would have maybe gone for something quite general like best director or best picture.
Again, yeah, best picture.
Yeah, because that really had a lot going for it. Annihilation. I thought that was. I think that was one of the more intriguing films of this year. In that everyone I've talked to who's seen that film had a different perception of what it was actually about, which to me that's like the biggest quality you can get. I would hope that if I ever made a film, people would have different readings from it, because that's what art's all about. Is that you look at something or you experience something and you get a reading from it that maybe reflects a little bit about you or the place where you're at, or your life, or the world at large, anything. So I really thought that was an interesting, and it was a great film on its own as well, regardless of all those different interpretations.
Can I just ask on that topic, because I think that's interesting? Can you think of a recent example where like a film, I don't know, you've read something into it that's really sort of hit you in that way? Not to make you talk about.
I would say from this year, that might be the biggest example. Look at my list of everything I've seen this year. That was probably the biggest one. Because anyone who really knows me knows that I think far too much about life and death and morality and things that I can't possibly control or influence. And that was... I got a lot of that from Annihilation, about sort of, great existential questions. I would need to go back to my Letterboxd review to remember exactly what I was, considering how long ago it was, but I remember really, by the end, feeling very struck by it, about what I was feeling from it. And then, interesting that I was watching it with some friends, and I think they were disappointed by the fact that it wasn't so literal in terms of its science fiction. They wanted something that had a bit more sort of, not lore, but
logic behind it.
Or... Well, more detail in terms of the backstory.
Okay,
and whereas I liked that it was ambiguous in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Because that leads to what I'm talking about, and sort of ambiguous readings. So, that would probably be one of the biggest ones for me. I believe Incredibles 2 has been nominated for Best Animated Picture, hasn't it?
Yes.
I wouldn't take that up for Best Picture, but it was certainly a very good film.
Again, though, we're going to sound like broken records, but better than at least
half
the films.
I mean, it is better. It is better. I just think, for me, nominating a bit... It's a bit like if those ones that we are going to talk about hadn't been nominated, even if I very much like them, I would be reticent to nominate them for Best Picture.
Yeah, sure.
I think there's a certain brand of film that I would nominate. Mandy, possibly. I really enjoyed that.
I wasn't... I think I saw that with you, and I wasn't as keen on Mandy as I think a lot of people. Although everyone I've talked to whose opinion I trust has absolutely loved it, so that's one I definitely want to watch again. But even that, I think at least it's an interesting film. At least it's a film that I think people will still be talking about in a number of years.
That's one that I would probably nominate for something like editing, because it did have such a visual impact to it.
Yes.
If it didn't impact you on a sort of emotional note, then certainly visually it did so. And, I mean, if we're going to talk about one of the most I won't say obnoxious, one of the most noticeable nominations for editing, Vice, I thought that Mandy was a lot more coherent in terms of its visual invention than Vice was.
This leads me on nicely, actually, to the last thing I was going to ask you before we go on to talk about the best films. In that I looked at the editing category, and I thought you'd be actually, because you've done more editing practically, you'd maybe be a better authority on it.
There are lots of quotation marks floating around at the moment. I'm trying to snatch them out of the air as we speak.
Okay, well, do your best. So the nominations for editing are Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Vice, The Favourite, and Green Book. And that just seems like the most bizarre list for editing. But I can't really put my finger on why that is.
I can. Green Book.
But
there's nothing remarkable about the editing.
It's just completely like...
I actually distinctly thought Green Book looked very boring. It was like Peter Farrelly hadn't moved on from filming comedies.
Yeah.
It just felt like that. So, in fact, there were the scenes in the car. This is less of an editing thing, more of a cinematography thing, but it does involve editing to some extent. I think that all of the scenes in the car were shot from the same angles, and a lot of them had the same lighting, didn't they?
Yeah.
That sort of pale yellow greenish light to them.
It's almost like I know this is becoming less of a comparison now, but if you talk about this in an old fashioned sense, there were times where it almost felt like a TV movie, like an old fashioned one before TV kind of took off and has now become incredibly has its own like rich visual style.
Sorry, which were the other nominations? There's at least one.
Vice, which I think
Vice was. I think you can see why that was nominated, but I don't think it was effective. We've said this to each other, I think, when we came out.
Yeah, and
not that we saw it together.
This, yeah.
Not we saw see anything together. Us friends, no. It clearly goes for a very distinctive editing style, but it doesn't add anything to the film.
I think that's the same with Bohemian Rhapsody, because I feel like there's a conflation between competent and fast in that they're very, very rapidly edited and they're very bouncy and very energetic, which kind of entertains you to a point, but it's it just seems bizarre. One of the 5 best edited films of the year.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I would say Mandy probably. I'd put that up there.
Well, also another one I'd mention in terms of a kind of a bouncy, energetic, fast-moving film that I haven't mentioned, American Animals.
Yeah.
So that's a film that I think, I wouldn't quite put it up as Best Picture because I think there's something a bit. What's really the point? There's like a little about a film about 4 boys.
What are you boys doing? I say, what are you boys doing around here?
Foghorn Leghorn reviewing American Animals.
I'm an American animal.
I was waiting for it.
Rooster, that is.
I'm no loudmouth schnook. But that's incredibly well edited and it tells the story in a very, very inventive way, and that's a film where like the technical aspects of it and the way it's put together is what elevates the film.
Yeah.
Whereas,
say it.
Yeah, nothing about
it was
except
interesting.
The favourite, which just
I agree with that. I mean, and even Black Klansman, I thought some of the editing choices in that were kind of. I questioned their inclusion, whether they were really as effective as they might have been on paper. And I do think it's interesting thinking against Spider-Man, because on the one hand, I would say there is some crossover into editing in terms of some of the visual effects and some of the way that film works. But I think the more interesting thing is that opens the question of, can you nominate an animated film for best editing when most of the editing is done for animated films?
To be fair, they might have some stupid rule about that.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is.
They do have loads. There's a lot of examples of films not being eligible for categories where it seems like they obviously are. I don't know the reason why, but I'm pretty sure. I know you're not the biggest fan, but I'm pretty sure the Lego Movie wasn't eligible for animated film for some reason.
Oh, maybe is that why? I thought it was just a big snub. I didn't realise it.
Oh, actually, maybe it was.
I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan, but I would nominate that at least.
Yeah.
I thought the animation was fantastic on that.
Again, that's something I'll have to fact check or cut out of the podcast altogether.
Addendum.